This video was boring. Okay, so I put out a half-hour documentary as well as a 30-second Instagram reel about my experiment where I ate nothing but Taco Bell for 30 days straight. Collectively, those two videos currently have over 10 million views. And so for your viewing pleasure, I'm gonna react to some of the comments that I've gotten. If you haven't seen the documentary and wanna check that out first, you can watch it by clicking right here. All right, so comments on the Instagram reel skewed more on the negative side, but by far the most common comment that I got was some variation of cap or lies, things like that. Most people who said that did not check out the full documentary or look at my documentation of meals or results, so I feel like I can take that with a grain of salt. One dude I'm pretty sure would not have been satisfied unless he was personally there to witness every single meal and exercise session and bowel movement that I had during the month. Second most common comment was paid, sponsored by Taco Bell, etc. Some variations included get a real job, or he just wants to be a Taco Bell influencer. And as many of you know, I did not receive a dime from Taco Bell to make this documentary, and the first contact I had with Taco Bell was Missy responding to my email, the dietitian who I get to interview in the documentary. But I do want to shout out everyone who supported my Kickstarter and this organization called Indigenous Healthcare Advancements who helped fund part of the documentary because I wouldn't have been able to make it without their support. One guy was skeptical of the fancy Taco Bell background I used during the interviews, and I literally just pulled that from this batch of like free Zoom backgrounds that Taco Bell released during the pandemic. Another pretty common response was rookie numbers, or I did this in college anyway, or I do this all the time and you don't see me bragging about it. To which I say cheers, more power to you. One really funny phenomenon was that the majority of people, even on YouTube, didn't watch the whole thing before commenting. I know that both from the analytics, but also because so many people asked questions or made comments about things that were clearly addressed, like pretty early on in the documentary. Or even on the reel, only 30 seconds long, so many comments about destroying my toilet or only losing weight because I had diarrhea. And that's something that I clearly address in that reel. The fact that people can't finish a 30-second video before commenting is just mind-blowing to me. The comments about things that are clearly addressed in the video make me feel like April in Parks and Rec when Andy keeps getting all these details wrong.
Dear April's grandmother, I said grandfather, you are a beautiful and amazing woman, man. I hope someday I can become half the woman you are. He's a man. Thank you for the $500. It was $5. Enjoy the Mouse Rat CD. He is deaf.
Of the people that did watch the full documentary, or the majority of it, the response was overwhelmingly positive. There were still a few keto bros that really wanted to put me in my place, and thank you for spending so much time typing out those long comments, but ultimately, sorry to say you did not change my mind or my perspective on health. One guy on Instagram was like, doctors are 7 years behind, and dietitians are 10 years behind. And someone responded to him and was like, behind what? Like, behind you? And the guy comments back and he's like, yeah. That's just so funny to me because I know that he was serious. A couple people said he probably wasn't working out before, but yes, I was. I addressed that in the documentary. A lot of comments saying I can cook better for myself at home. So I didn't think this needed to be said, but I'm not saying that this is the healthiest food on planet Earth. I'm just testing to see if I can maintain my health while eating it. Obviously, there are healthier foods that I can be eating. Kind of in a similar vein, people said I can eat for cheaper at home or I spend way less on groceries. And again, I never said the experiment was about spending as little money as possible or proving that I could eat at Taco Bell for less than I spend on my monthly grocery bill. Also kind of similar, people have said like, oh, I would have gotten this or that and spent less than you did. And I think that's actually a really good point because I think it shows that the cheapest option is not always the healthiest option. Someone on YouTube said I checked out his meal log and he ate in a caloric deficit for the last 10 days, so he cheated. First of all, I didn't count calories. I talk a little bit in the documentary about intuitive eating, so if I was in a caloric deficit, I was not aware of that. The cheating part of it is kind of baffling to me because it's like, what rules am I breaking in your mind? Cheating, from my perspective, would be like I ate somewhere other than Taco Bell, which I didn't. And my intention was never to say like, hey, you will get healthier if you make bad choices at fast food restaurants all the time. It was more of a personal challenge. Can I maintain my health while eating nothing but Taco Bell? Like that's literally the first line of the video. I'll be eating nothing but Taco Bell to see if it's possible to actually become healthier while doing it. And so I made choices that would allow me to reach that goal. I also got several comments that were like, now do it without exercising, or do it when you're 40 and then I'll be impressed. And it's like, what? That's not the point at all. One of the most liked comments on Instagram said, what were you eating before bacon grease smoothies? And yeah, I was eating pretty healthy before, but I gotta hand it to that guy. That's pretty funny. One of the funniest earnest comments on YouTube just said, too much talking. And then the person commented again in a follow-up comment and said, just say what you did and ate every day. So to that individual, I apologize. I hope you're not watching this video because it is just talking. Okay, I also want to address another one of the most common comments, and that is comparing me to Jared, the Subway guy. Please do not compare me to Jared, the Subway guy. I obviously condemn the actions that resulted in his arrest and imprisonment. That being said, someone did make that comparison and made what is possibly the funniest slip up of all time. He said, "Be careful, bro. The dude that did this with Subway in the 90s is a pediatrician now." A pediatrician. This is kind of a crazy small world connection though. Quick story for you. When I was 13 years old, I took a trip with my dad to New York City, and in my mind, New York City was like the place where you see celebrities out in the wild. I did not see any celebrities. The person I did see out in the wild, Jared, the Subway guy. He was doing interviews in Times Square, and so I walked kind of behind him, and my dad took a picture of us. That's the only contact I had with him. We never spoke, but it is kind of wild that people are drawing these comparisons, and we have a picture together. Drew Gooden commented on the documentary. Drew's a YouTuber with almost 4 million subscribers. So that was really cool. Drew, thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of comments that said, "You're just ripping off Super Size Me. This is a carbon copy of Super Size Me. You're plagiarizing Super Size Me." And yeah, I was very influenced by Super Size Me. I was upfront about that from the beginning in my Kickstarter. I think plagiarism is maybe a little bit harsh. I would say more of inspired by, and tried to put my own spin on it, tried to go for the opposite effect of maintaining my health instead of just seeing all the damage it would do to my body. Back to the reel, a couple people said like, "Hey, cholesterol is actually good for you," and it's probably just a nuanced thing. There is HDL, which is good cholesterol, and LDL, which is bad cholesterol. My good cholesterol actually went up while my bad cholesterol went down. And that is still mind-blowing to me. Other people mentioned other measures of health or said like, "Hey, those aren't the only measures of health." And I agree with you, but again, not enough time to put all that into a 30-second reel. Someone asked if anybody else recognized Missy from the episode of Conan. And yes, Missy was featured in an episode of Conan back in 2015.
So these cinnamon twists are pretty classic to Taco Bell. The crunchy.
Excuse me. Missy's doing the presentation.
Great catch. I did get a lot of comments about cancer that I want to address. So yes, there is a California Prop 65 warning, and at Taco Bell that is mainly for a chemical called acrylamide, which is found in some of their packaging. Not to freak you out, but here are just a few other foods and restaurants that have Prop 65 chemicals in them. Looking at you, Trader Joe's. The level of chemicals that trigger a Prop 65 warning are actually much lower than what the FDA deems as safe to consume. Regardless, Taco Bell has still pledged to phase out the use of those chemicals entirely over the next several years. Another thing that was interesting is that a lot of the people who said, "Congrats, you have cancer now," had things like "spread kindness" in their Instagram bios, and I'm like, what is going on here? Several comments did compare my appearance to that of Pete Davidson. Personally, I don't see it, but I will take it. A few people got upset about the clip where Katie mentions that she doesn't look at weight as a primary health indicator for her clients. And there are two things I'll say about that. One, I think that Katie is brilliant. I think that she is really good at what she does and approaches nutrition in a really thoughtful way. And second, there's a lot that I had to cut out of our interview just to fit everything into the documentary. And so there's a lot more context and nuance to that statement than I think people realize. So I would encourage you to go check out the full interview with Katie, which I will link in the description to this video. Something I appreciate about Katie is that she works with former athletes, many of whom have been conditioned to obsess over every pound and macro and calorie. And that can become a really hard thing to shake once you retire from playing sports. So rather than being another voice in their lives saying, "You're not good enough," or "You weigh too much," she starts with things like a positive relationship with food or blood work, self-image, forming sustainable health-promoting behaviors. I also appreciate that she focuses on what you can add in, like adding in movement that you enjoy, or for me, it was adding in potassium rather than focusing on what you have to restrict. I guess that both Katie's approach and like a more traditional weight-focused approach can achieve end results in terms of physical health. But I think that Katie's approach involves a lot less self-loathing. Like I got some comments from people who flat out said like people should feel guilty about their weight or that they do need to earn every meal that they eat. I suspect that the people leaving those comments don't have friends or loved ones or people in their lives who have struggled with disordered eating. To reference Ted Lasso, be curious rather than judgmental. And I think a good rule of thumb is to assume the best in people when you're not sure what they mean. Okay, and I will say this, I got a lot of really kind comments. So I just want to end by reading you maybe the nicest comment that's ever been left on YouTube. It says, when I came across the quick synopsis, I genuinely thought that the YouTube video was going to be an absolute joke. I didn't think it was going to be real. I didn't think it was actually going to do the title justice. I was wrong. I'm blown away on how well this is edited, produced, and delivered. The research and effort that went into this video is incredible. Thank you, Sam. Connor, I just want to thank you and everyone else who's left kind words. It means more than you know, and I really, really appreciate it. Okay, I think that's it for now. I do know that some of these comments have been a little bonkers. With that in mind, I am thankful that I have supportive friends and family who can remind me where my identity is found, which is not in those comments. But if you happen to get hateful comments online or on social media that are negatively affecting your mental health, there are resources available to you like the crisis text line and a few others that I'll link in the description below. All right, thank you for watching. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode of the Studio Review. And as always, just remember that even when it doesn't feel like it, it's gonna be okay. I'll see you soon. That's so good.